Hi, I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to come to you today and talk about Healing Warrior Hearts. They are free retreats that we offer for veterans in Wisconsin and in Texas. It's a weekend opportunity for vets to come together and have a chance to tell their story and help their hearts to heal. We've been doing these retreats since 1993. They started as a program called the Bamboo Bridge. A Vietnam veteran came to me one day and asked if we could take the program that we were doing at that time, Taking It Lightly, which is a similar program for civilians. And he said, "Is it possible that you could do something like this for veterans?" And I said, "Well, I think so." And he came and he did the program with us. And we worked on things that were left over from his time in Vietnam, a lot of emotional stuff. As you probably know, as a veteran, especially that the Vietnam veterans had a really rough time coming home. And he had a lot of things that needed healing when he got back. And so he had a fantastic experience at the weekend, and it really helped him heal his soul. And so he asked me if I would consider helping him create a similar program for veterans. And the Bamboo Bridge was born. That was 1993. And today we are still doing this work, and now it's known as Healing Warrior Hearts. One of the things that caused me to really jump into this work was my own personal history. I'm the daughter of a sergeant major, U.S. Army. He was a medic who served in World War II. He was awarded a Bronze Star and a Silver Star. And he came home with his own personal version of PTSD, which I got to experience secondhand because I lived in that home with him. And I saw what happened every Memorial Day after the picnic when the guys started drinking and telling their stories. And I could hear the pain in their stories. And I didn't fully understand it as a child. But as I grew up, and especially when I got to high school and the Vietnam War was happening, I had friends who went to Vietnam. I had one who committed suicide in Vietnam because it was too hard for him to handle what was happening. And I had a boyfriend who came home with severe PTSD. So that was a time when I decided to protest the war. And my father, the sergeant major, made sure that I learned the difference between the warrior and the war. He taught me that I could disagree with the reasons for a war, but I should always respect the warriors and their sacrifice and their service. And so when I had this opportunity to create the Bamboo Bridge, I was all in, and I have been all in ever since. I'd like to tell you a little bit about our weekends and what it's like to attend a Healing Warrior Hearts retreat. You come on Friday evening. The retreat starts at about 7 o'clock in the evening. And we spend Friday night getting to know each other. We have some very powerful experiences where you get to share pieces of your story and find out that there are a lot of other people who have very similar experiences to yours. Maybe it's not exactly the same experience, but they can understand the trauma and the pain. And we also on Friday night take some time to make choices about what we want to let go of and release as a result of the work that's going to be done on the weekend. So on Friday night, we come together and get to know each other. On Saturday, we come back together and the veterans draw a picture of their wounded heart, the pain that they feel, the pain that they've been carrying. And then throughout the day on Saturday, each veteran has an opportunity to tell the story of that pain, where it came from, what's unfinished for them. And there is a team, a staff, veterans and civilians who are there solely for the purpose to witness with unconditional respect and regard and compassion for the story that every veteran tells. You can tell as little of your story or as much of your story as you want. Each person always has choice about what they want to share in the group. But the important thing that happens on Saturday is that there's this bonding and connecting that happens as we recognize the pain that each other has. I carry my own post-traumatic stress from experiences I had in my childhood, and so I can feel the pain even though I may not have been in the military myself or served in combat. So people relate to the pain and the stories that are being expressed and told that day. At the end of the day, there's an opportunity to burn that drawing of the wounded heart and the drawing of what they wanted to let go, as a way of saying, I release this to my higher power, my God, whatever that force is for you, and let it go so that even deeper healing can happen. Then we come together again on Sunday, and it's a fun day. It's a good day. On Sunday morning, they draw a picture of their healthy heart, their whole heart. We do some other art stuff with some boxes where we decorate the boxes, and they put some of the ash from the night before from the sacred fire. It's a very powerful experience to do. And they get their t-shirt and they get welcomed into the Warrior Heart family, and they create a drawing of what they want their future to be. Now, if all that stuff about art and drawing and whatever you might be saying, wait a minute, I'm not an artist. It's not about being an artist. It's just about expressing yourself. And then on Sunday evening, we have a graduation. And the graduation is opened by American Legion Post from here in Milwaukee that does a color ceremony, and then we do our graduation, and we do a special folding of the flag, and then we close the graduation ceremony. It's a very powerful experience and an opportunity to create new friends and a new support system, because we're a community. It's an ongoing process. You can come back and staff Healing Warrior Hearts Retreat once you've been through the program. So you can be a guide and a mentor for another veteran who will come through a future weekend. You'll learn a little bit more about some of this as Diane will share in her story. She'll be talking to you in a little while. I want to tell you a short version of one particular story that I have permission to talk about. What happens on a weekend is very confidential, and so I want you to know that I have expressed permission from this veteran to tell this story. This fellow served in Vietnam, and his unit was in a battle on a hill, and everybody in the unit died in that battle except for this one veteran. And he came home, and he carried 30 plus years of survivor's guilt, because he had lain there thinking the best thing for him to do was to pretend to be dead until the enemy was gone based on what was happening. But he didn't realize that all of his other comrades were being killed. So the story, the process that we set up for him is we got some blue scarves and we laid them out on the ground. And they were to resemble, or represent rather, a river, because a river was involved in this story. And then what happened is that veteran's guide and the veteran walked across the scarves, walked across the river, and went and got another scarf, some different scarves that were representing each of the people in his unit. And so he would pick up a scarf, and the two of them would walk back across the river, and he would hand the scarf to one of the staff or one of the other veterans there for the program and say, "This is my friend Bill. Please take good care of him and welcome him home." Just like the tears you can sense are coming up for me, every person in that room was crying as that veteran brought back every member of his unit and entrusted them to a member of the community. And when he was all done and came back over the river, he collapsed into the arms, safely collapsed into the arms of his guide, his mentor for the weekend, and cried and cried and cried. The next day, that veteran walked back into that room, and he walked without the cane he had been dependent on for years. He walked straight, he walked tall, and he said to us, "This is the first time I have slept through the night since I came home from Vietnam." That's an example of the kind of healing that can happen only in community. There's a lot of value to one-on-one healing and working with therapists. And there's a lot of value to PTSD groups where you're talking about your experiences with your fellow veterans. But there's a kind of healing that happens only in community, when there are both veterans and civilians and a group of people spending 20 some hours together over the course of a weekend doing this healing work. If that inspires you at all, I strongly encourage you to consider coming to attend a Healing Warrior Hearts retreat. You'll find information at our website. The dates are there in advance. We're a small nonprofit, so we can't pay your transportation or air flight. But if you can get yourself to Wisconsin or to Texas, to Houston, Texas, we will put you up for the weekend. We will pick you up at the airport. We will take you back to the airport or the train station. We will make you feel like you're at home. We'll feed you good meals for the weekend, and you'll get to meet some people who welcome you with very open hearts. So that's the work that we do with the Healing Warrior Hearts retreats. There's probably a whole lot more that I could share with you. There is one thing I think it is important to say, though, and that is that we are a non-denominational organization, meaning we are not affiliated with any other group, and that all faiths and all backgrounds are welcome. Any vet is welcome. If you wore the uniform, if you signed that oath, you are welcome to be a member or a participant in a Healing Warrior Hearts retreat. Whether you were in combat or not, whatever your MOS, wherever you served, we are here now to welcome you home and to give you an opportunity for your heart to do deeper healing. So now I want to introduce you to that person I mentioned a few minutes ago, Diane Young.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to share about the Healing Warrior Hearts program. I'm Diane Young, a retired Marine, a mom, a mother of a Marine, and a Marine wife. So I share my story to bring hope to people that might still be struggling with emotional trauma related to their service. So as a retired Marine, you can imagine that PTSD and depression was definitely not on my radar. We generally don't do those things, right? Until I had gotten myself into a position after my transition from retiring where I was really overextended. I was working a full-time job at a full-time college schedule, and I was working an hour away, and I still had 3 kids in school. The youngest was in kindergarten, and a strained relationship. Well, no doubt after all that, right? And of course, I had no awareness that I had any problem. However, I got let go rather rudely from this great job I had for about 9 years. And that's when I reached out to a good friend of mine that I had served with in the Marine Corps. And she suggested that I should try the Healing Warrior Hearts program. And I thought, why would I try that? I've had other types of counseling, and I've tried other programs, and none of that seemed to work for me. Well, she kind of caught me at a weak spot there, so I decided to try it. She recognized the anger that I had and the victim mentality. First of all, you can't say that to a Marine without us thinking, what? I'm very justified to feel angry and not a victim, and I just had no idea where I was at. She recognized all of this dysfunction that I had created and the anger that I was still carrying around from the military sexual trauma that she knew that I had experienced in the Marine Corps. So quickly into that weekend retreat, I tell you, they saved my life early that Friday night when it was explained how the brain responds to trauma. And I realized all that self-loathing, the blame, the shame, the constant anger, being triggered by everything and not realizing I was even triggered or that I was in error, all of that is a natural response to the trauma that I had experienced, and I was completely unaware. And then they quickly shifted into some of the tools that we can use to recognize some of that dysfunctional lifestyle and the self-medicating methods that I had adopted, typical of the military lifestyle, maybe. Anyway, and then particular attention for me was on the different ways that I was self-medicating with, being depressed and just zoning out or staying so busy that I didn't have time to really feel anything. I truly had lost my joy and would react to so many different things as if I was a victim. So then on Saturday, I had the opportunity to share a bit of my story and then reenact the court-martial that I felt was part of the injustice of the system. And so there I got an opportunity to get a different outcome. I wasn't happy with the outcome in the military, where he was basically let free. And in this instant, I was really happy, and it started the healing when somebody was there and fighting for me and explaining that it wasn't my fault and that it was an ugly thing that happened to me. It didn't make me an ugly person. And just being able to see the different outcome there and feel like that's how it should have been and hear them fighting for me really started the healing. And then my guide was a volunteer that had agreed to support me through the weekend. We became lifelong friends, and she recommended that this was a great start for me in my healing process, and I should probably take that civilian course, I like to call it, the Taking It Lightly program, because she recognized that I also had some misinterpretations of life based on emotional trauma from my childhood. So I like to think that if we look for the good in the bad, we can often find a gift. So as awful as the military sexual trauma was, there was the gift in it. The gift of finding the Healing Warrior Hearts program and this accepting community, and then the Taking It Lightly program, so that I could really heal on the different levels that I needed to and find my joy again and be able to share that with other people so that there is hope for them, for all of us, that we don't have to stay stuck in the trauma that we have experienced. And so I've gone on and staffed as a volunteer after that as well, and found that to be really rewarding to be able to reconnect with that community and strengthen those relationships, which has been super helpful, especially during COVID, to have that bond where I feel comfortable enough to reach out when I needed support. And then also to be there in that environment again, having those concepts reinforced every time that I go through that weekend. So now I have post-traumatic growth instead of being stuck in post-traumatic stress. So we do have 6 retreats a year in Milwaukee and then 4 in Houston, Texas. These are all veteran retreats. They're open to anyone that served in the military, especially for those that might not have got a honorable discharge. They're all welcome. So twice a year we do retreats dedicated to the issue of military sexual trauma, and then once a year we have a weekend that is strictly for the LGBTQ plus community. And then we also have one weekend in Milwaukee and one in Texas that is specific for military couples, because just like in my case, my PTSD and depression was affecting our relationship. That's why I mentioned it was strained earlier. And so I haven't talked him into going to this retreat yet, and I haven't given up. However, I certainly learn a lot when I staff that weekend, and then I'm able to go back into our relationship and explain what I learned and hopefully help us work on those things together. It's a much better approach than what I started off with. So what I want to leave you with today is, in my opinion, you were not broke when you enlisted in the military, and you should not be broke when you left. So please reach out to your Veteran Services officer and make sure that you've got all the benefits that are available for you. They can also set you up with a lot of resources. And then the VA hospital, of course, when I went through the Healing Warrior Hearts retreat, they recognized that this was just the beginning for me and that I did need individual therapy, and they encouraged me to go to the VA. The VA had a number of programs that I was able to benefit from, and those were extremely helpful implementing my healing and recovery. And then the Healing Warrior Hearts program also referred me to the Vets Center. And that was especially helpful for me after I finished the programs at the VA, because there the counselors are veterans also, and they have experienced what I've experienced also. So I found that they understood me better than I understood myself sometimes. And they knew about the other programs that I had participated in, so they could help pull it all together for me. And then let's see. Oh, the Healing Warrior Hearts program. I hope that you will come out to one of our retreats, come to a graduation and get introduced to the community, or reach out to me or someone from Healing Warrior Hearts. Because of the work that I've already done, I'm able to talk about my situation and my growth without problem. So if you have any questions, feel free to call me or reach out. I'm an open book, so to speak. And Maybe you'll even be a volunteer. Thanks. I hope to see you in the future. To your well-being.